Yes, I said jury trials in an eviction. That's a real thing. We do them all the time. And when I say a jury trial, I mean like you see on television, 12 people in a box, jury instructions, opening, closing statements, the whole deal for one eviction. Our largest ever was we had a 10-court day jury trial to evict one guy and his girlfriend.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Niv Davidovich runs Davidovich Stone Law Group, a full-service landlord firm in Los Angeles covering evictions, real estate disputes, and construction claims. If you think eviction is a simple process, Niv will change your mind. In LA County, landlords face 16 different municipal rent control ordinances, over a dozen agencies providing free legal defense to tenants, and a system where jury trials for a single eviction are routine. His firm's largest ever was a 10-day court jury trial to evict one person. On the AI side, Niv gave me the most vivid picture yet of what happens when unrepresented litigants use ChatGPT to file cases. Fabricated citations, hallucinated law, zero consequences from judges, and landlord clients stuck paying tens of thousands of dollars to respond to filings that should never have been accepted. We talk about why he treats every legal matter like a business decision and what AI does well inside his practice right now, and why his family's experience fleeing the Soviet Union shapes everything about his work defending property rights in California. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome back to the Main Street AI podcast. This is Stephen with Satori Coach IO, and today I'm joined by Niv Davidovich of the Davidovich Stone Law Group. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Stephen.
Great. Please go ahead, jump right in and tell us what you do at your firm.
Okay, so it's the Davidovich Stone Law Group. We are a full-service landlord firm. That means that we provide a full slate of services for anyone who's in the landlord, property manager, or developer business. We divide that up into three basic buckets. One is landlord-tenant, obviously, and there we provide evictions on the plaintiff side and habitability defense, personal injury defense, any sort of defensive matters that need to be taken care of that are directed at a landlord. Most of the time it's habitability claims, but sometimes it's somebody falls or a guest falls or something like that at an apartment building or a commercial plaza, something like that, and we will defend those claims. And the second bucket is the real estate. So that means either buyer-seller disputes where, since the buyer and the seller are both owners, we would represent either buyer or the seller. Sometimes there is a dispute with a real estate broker. Sometimes we're actually representing a real estate broker. So that whole area deals with typical sort of traditional real estate claims. And then there's the construction end, which is when an owner gets into a problem with a contractor or an architect or engineer, whether they are claiming that some work was done poorly or they're not paying because the work was done poorly and the contractor is coming after them for payment for a mechanics lien. We'll handle all of the issues like that. And it's all from the owner or property manager's perspective exclusively.
Great.
And then we also handle some administrative matters that really are mostly landlord-tenant related. So if LAHD or the county is coming after you, or if DRE is coming after you, that's mostly with property managers. We'll handle all sorts of those matters. And then we handle transactional in all of those fields as well. So that's leases for landlord tenants, purchase and sale and loan docs for real estate, and then service agreements for the construction.
Excellent. And do you have dedicated teams for each of those buckets?
Yes, we do. So we have people who one half is about the eviction side, and the other half does all the other matters. We have people who are primarily just the civil litigators. They'll only handle the civil litigation part. And then we have other people who are primarily just doing the UD, which is a lot more labor intensive, and a lot more of the staff deals with the UD side than staff that we have on the civil side. And then we have a few people who overlap and do a little bit of both.
Excellent. One question I always like to ask is, what sort of proactive advice would you give to potential clients? In this case, because they're not legal experts. And one of the things we hear so commonly from attorneys is, I wish people would understand X, things that you wish that they knew, did, or did not do before they ever reached out to you, or sometimes they maybe waited too long. I know that depends on the particular type of law area, but maybe you could speak to that from those different buckets.
The area where we see the most frustration and the most disconnect between expectations and reality, and I think that's literally the mathematical definition of frustration, is that I have expectation A, reality is B, and the extent to which they are disconnected equals the amount of frustration that is experienced. That's at least the way I have seen it in real life.
Yep.
And the place where we see the most disconnect is in evictions, specifically in LA County. When you cross the county line from LA County to anywhere else outside of the Bay Area, evictions are a lot more closely aligned with what people expect them to be, which is what they're supposed to be, which is a summary process. That means they're supposed to move quicker. They're supposed to be fairly simple. They're supposed to be fairly inexpensive. And for the most part, that's the deal that you get in San Bernardino or Riverside or any of our surrounding counties. As soon as you cross the line into LA County, it's like going to a different country.
Wow.
In LA County, there are at least 16 and counting different agencies who are government funded and donor funded who will provide free defense to tenants. And the landlord isn't getting a free defense. Now, those lawyers have no incentive not to fight the case very hard. They'll ask for jury trials. Yes, I said jury trials in an eviction. That's a real thing. We do them all the time. And when I say a jury trial, I mean like you see on television, 12 people in a box, jury instructions, opening, closing statements, the whole deal for one eviction. Our largest ever was we had a 10 court day jury trial to evict one guy and his girlfriend.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been quite a bit about that on the news, nationwide.
Yeah.
But it's wild to hear that's the case. Some of these things would seem to be, just from a common sense perspective, very clear cut, but apparently not.
No. Now, LA County has 88 cities in it. Of those cities, I would say somewhere between 15 to 20 of them have some version of their own rent control or just cause eviction ordinance. You have to know which city you're in and follow that city's rules. And then you have to also know if maybe you're in no city, because then you're in the unincorporated parts of the county and they have their own set of rules. So it's like having to know the law of 16 different states just to be able to live and to function in one county out of 55 in the state of California. This nonsense does not exist anywhere really outside of New York. And at least in New York, again, you're talking about New York City, you're dealing with one set of laws. Here you're dealing with 16. And they're all slightly different. They all have their slightly different departments, slightly different rules about where you have to send things, to who you have to notify, and what notices have to be in there. And it's set up so that you have to go through this, like Rube Goldberg machine to get to the end. And if you miss one thing, the whole machine falls apart. So the tenant just has to get you on one little thing. The landlord has to be perfect, beginning to end.
Wow.
It's a ridiculous system. And
it sounds that way.
Yeah, it is. It's very expensive. It takes a very long time. The lockout, even if you get a judgment, it takes the sheriff 8 to 12 weeks to get it done. So you've won the case. Let's just say you've won the case. The tenant has now lost the case. You get a judgment that actually says possession is given over to the landlord. So landlords assume, okay, I can go take my building now. I can go take my unit now. Nope. You gotta wait for the sheriff to come give it to you. And after you give him the judgment, he says, okay, see you in 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
There's nothing anybody can do about it.
So I guess swinging back around to the beginning, what is your advice to landlords, to those who actually rent, in this current state of affairs?
If you're going to be in LA County, realize that this is not something you can do as a side hustle. And realize that if you run into one bad tenant who goes to one bad lawyer, you are going to be in it for a while, and you are going to be in it for some significant dollars. And a lot of the time, the best way to resolve the case is to settle it quickly, efficiently, and in the beginning of the case, if that's a possibility. A lot of the times it's not. That's how we get into these even more ridiculous situations. It's just not a possibility. But you're going to have to learn to treat every situation like a business decision. In other words, sort of to tie into what we're going to talk about a little later, you need to be AI. Mm-hmm. You need to take all your feelings about it, put them to the side. Your feelings are right. The feeling is that this is not fair, that you're an owner, you worked very hard to buy this building, you're investing your blood, sweat, and tears and your hard-earned money into this investment, and somebody is coming in and taking advantage of that using laws that are purposefully written to put you at a disadvantage. All of those feelings are right and good. And they also make absolutely no difference to the decision-making process. In fact, they interfere with it. Wow. So in the same way that you wouldn't want your AI to start, thinking about robot rights when it advised you, you have to stop thinking about what should be right and moral and good and just. Set that to the side and realize that you are not in the landlord business to teach other people about what is good and right and moral. You're in the landlord business to make money. Making money means collecting rent or saving money. Mm-hmm. So when we're in an eviction, it's a defensive play. Even though we're the plaintiff, we're trying to save money, get the unit back to producing income. How do we get there the fastest? Not the rightest or the most moral or the most just the fastest and the cheapest.
Yeah, that's well said. It's not a great incentive structure for wanting to be able to provide that service, meaning rentals,
right?
Provide that asset to people, but that's why you're there,
right?
So to that end, we'll pivot over to the AI portion of the conversation, and how are you seeing things trending right now in the legal domain, and also if you could talk a little bit about not only how you're thinking about it, but possibly how you're using it.
Well, there's so much to say here when it comes to AI and legal. So one is what I'm seeing. The bigger effect is what I'm seeing and less how we are using it as lawyers. I've read many articles about this to confirm that it's not just happening to me and not just happening in Los Angeles, but it's happening across the country. Is that regular laymen's pro pers or pro ses, as we call them, are using AI and then assuming that because they have a ChatGPT or Claude subscription, that they are now a Supreme Court justice and they know everything there is to know about all the laws and they don't need a lawyer anymore. And the fact is that we are not there yet, not even close. And I don't know if we'll ever get there. I mean, I've read enough Isaac Asimov novels and short stories to know that there is a direction there, and now I can kind of see it. And before, when I used to think it was 20 years away, now I think maybe it's 5 years away. But that being said, as we sit here today, it's really not there. They don't know that, and they don't believe you when you tell them they're wrong.
Yes.
So we have this explosion, this epidemic of people filing cases, defending cases, all on their own, thinking that, hey, I don't need a lawyer anymore. And it's really more the filing cases. They file so many. They file so many things in the cases, so many motions, stupid discovery, wrong motions, where they're just copying and pasting what ChatGPT is giving them into the pleadings. And they're the ones that are finding all of the hallucination cases. Mm-hmm. The thing that happens to attorneys that they get sanctioned for, that we like to read about and get, this mild schadenfreude, is happening to the pro pers even more because they don't know which cases are fake. Mm-hmm. They don't really have a method of checking them. Right. And they're not getting in trouble for it, which is why you're not reading about it. So that happened to us. We had this one complete psycho who was litigating this case for 4 years, getting away with murder, got caught using AI hallucination cases, got called out on it by the judge, lied about it, just straight lied and said, no, I'm not using AI. And the judge is like, well, then how come you have these cases that don't exist, or you have this case that has a quote in it and the quote doesn't exist in the case, or it doesn't stand for this proposition at all? He's like, well, maybe I didn't check it. Maybe I misquoted it a little bit wrong. He gets called out on it. Then does it again a few months later, gets called out again, lies again, and says he didn't use AI. And nothing happened to him. Nothing. Not $1 in sanctions. No negative consequence whatsoever. Had that been with a lawyer, number one, he would have been sanctioned the first time monetarily. If he did it again, I think he would have been at least sanctioned far more severely, and potentially had a bar complaint filed by the judge. And yet pro pers do it, and judges bend over backwards and let them get away with murder, filing tons of motions, sending ridiculous amounts of discovery. And what it does is it causes the clients an insane amount of money. You still have to respond to it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the times, when you're playing chess with someone who doesn't know what they're playing, sometimes they'll make a move that's just completely unexpected, because no one who plays chess would ever do that. So they do stuff like that. And then we have to sit there and figure out how to respond to something that's just completely out of left field.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because just to confirm what you were hypothesizing there, that this isn't just you, it's happening across the board. From my conversations, this is coming up a lot, and it definitely is. You're far from the only one who is noticing this, but that's the first time I've had anyone really talk about consequences insofar as, it could be your particular area, but that your clients actually have to subsidize you engaging with those types of, faults or hallucinated discoveries. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, it's mostly our conversations around that have been from the standpoint of trying to educate the layman to say, like, you're lacking so much context and nuance by thinking that you can just go to a public LLM and type in, your objective. One of the ones I had heard about was, for instance, a personal injury claim where, AI is telling you that you're going to get this extremely large settlement and give you a range, and then come back, and then the personal injury attorney's like, wait, hold on a second. Like, there's so many variables here that the AI couldn't possibly know. So we need to reevaluate. And again, you get the kind of the skepticism, like, what, are you not representing me properly? Because the AI,
exactly.
But for what you're talking about, yeah, I can see how that's even more of an issue, because especially if the courts are just allowing this. Yeah, that's an interesting challenge for sure.
The judge doesn't want to be on TV or on the internet saying Judge so-and-so denied access to justice to someone who was just representing themselves and using tools at their disposal because they couldn't afford an attorney. And the judge doesn't want to be the guy that shut down, the guy or the lady that shut down that pro pers attempt to speak truth to power and all of these other stupid catchphrases. So they
but your client should have to pay for the time it takes you to counter something that was fabricated.
If you can afford an attorney, it's your bill to pay.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is preposterous. That is, again, not the way the justice system is supposed to work. If the way it's supposed to work, and the way it did work, was if you had a good case, some attorney will take it for you. Because they'll take it on contingency. And if no one will take your case, it means you have a bad case that shouldn't be litigated. And that's how we would weed out the bad cases. Now all of those cases are getting filed. And now we have to fight them. And even though we settle them for pennies on the dollar, getting to the point where we settle them on pennies on the dollar costs tens of thousands of dollars. And now we have to explain that to clients. And the clients say, I don't understand. Why would it cost you so much money to go up against a person who doesn't have an attorney? This is like you being, The Rock and having to wrestle Woody Allen. Why did you break a sweat?
Right.
He's like, because it's not like that.
Yeah. Because
it's like having Woody Allen show up with a big robot that doesn't really know how to wrestle, but is strong. So we could beat him, but we are going to have to break a sweat. We are going to have to do some work.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah. So that's definitely a very interesting challenge. On the flip side, what are you most positive about with the technology?
Oh, what do I find that's good about it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot that's good about it. Number one, if you know how to use it correctly, it's a great place to take out a lot of the time it takes to research something. So say I know there's a law that I saw 3 years ago, but I can't remember where it is. Now I can just describe what that law was, and it'll spit it out for me in 2 minutes. Then I'll go read the law. And then I can start asking questions. When it gives me answers, I can go check those things.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, when you're using a sort of dedicated AI provider, so not a ChatGPT or Claude, although I do use those as well. Again, the way I'm saying it in a safe way. But we also have AI through our Westlaw subscription. It's only looking in its own universe, in its own database. And so you're not really going to get, at least you're not going to get hallucinated cases.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to do. And it's only going to look in the jurisdictions you're looking for. So automatically, that risk is eliminated, but it still might find and present to you cases which are on topic, but don't exactly say what it says it says.
Right.
So you still have to go back and verify, but it provides a verify button. So at least there's a lot more safety and of course a lot more cost in using a system like that. I've found that the reports that I get from Westlaw are definitely very useful and give me an answer and support that would take me much, much longer, and it gives it to me in like 10 minutes. So that part is great. In terms of doing sort of more pedantic tasks, I find it useful. So landlord tenant, one time, the thing that I was most impressed about was landlord took possession of a warehouse after an eviction. The warehouse was full of stuff. We now have to catalog that and give the tenant an opportunity to come pick up their stuff. And the landlord was like, I don't want to catalog all this, but they took pictures of it and video. So I said, fine, send me the pictures and the video. And then I said, I don't want to catalog all this. So I told Claude, here are the pictures and video. Make me a catalog of everything that's in there with the description and the number. 5 minutes later, nice catalog. So that was really great.
Yes.
I like that it can do things like that. And now it does depot summaries very nicely. And right now we're exploring helping it make us discovery shells. So things that paralegals would otherwise do, which is copying the questions into a shell so that the attorney has the basic framework, the skeleton of where to put the answers. If it can do that for us, and I think it can, that will also save our paralegals a lot of time and save our clients a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah, that's really where the power is right now. Primarily is just the speed and efficiency. It's
in doing simple things like that, and then helping you maybe find some arguments that you maybe wouldn't have thought. But taking those tools and turning them into actual work product and turning them into actual pleadings and arguments still requires human intervention.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be the case for a very long time, if not forever.
Right. Totally agree. This is, one of our current recurring themes here. I summarize by saying, lawyers still have to lawyer. Because it's where people get into trouble, where they forget that their discrimination or discriminating knowledge that they went to school for is exactly what is still needed that the AI can't do. It's that higher level when you just want to defer to, again, just an LLM. That's where people are going to run into these very well publicized problems. So
and I think even if in 15 or 20 years the associates are replaced with Tesla robots, at the end of the day, you're still going to need somebody at the top checking the work.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll pivot over now to just talk a little bit more deep dive about your firm. What would you say that you do extraordinarily well that maybe sets you apart from others in your same practice areas?
Number one, every decision is made like I was alluding to before, from a business perspective. And so we treat every single situation practically. Because nobody who comes to me wants to win a case. Yeah, theoretically they want to win a case, but really what they want to do is solve their problem. Mm-hmm. Solving their problem isn't always the best way to solve their problem. Isn't always to take a case from beginning to end, win the actual lawsuit. A lot of the times that's a far more expensive and far risky solution than one that we could craft earlier on. And so the idea is not that we are scared to go to trial. We go to trial every day. I have dedicated trial attorneys that I can't even, find enough of them. So we'll go to trial all day long. But trial comes with risks. Settlement is capping those risks. A lot of the times people will come and say, oh, I have this problem. And I'll offer them a solution that says, well, why don't you just offer them this? It will cost you 10% of what fighting with them will cost you. And it really solves your problem, because your problem is that you want possession, or your problem is that you want this person to leave you alone. Not that you want to show them that you're right and they're wrong, because you don't make money showing people that you're right and they're wrong. It doesn't work like that. So having that practical solutions-based thought process, having a different definition of win and lose, I think sets us apart from other people, from other lawyers who are there to lawyer. And they're there to win cases. I want my track record. I want the win. I want the verdict. I want the judgment. That's not what your client is in business for.
Absolutely. No, that's a great distinction.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that's all the more important in the particular climate that you were citing before.
And then there's also that we read the law and we're not afraid to take aggressive positions where it's appropriate and not exceedingly risky. So during COVID, we were one of the only law firms that was actually evicting people for non-payment of rent in LA. While other law firms were scared and reading the law in a way that would say, oh, we're going to get fined. We'd say, we're not going to get fined. We're exercising our constitutional rights. We're going forward. And we had LAHD, the Los Angeles Housing Department, writing our clients letter after letter after letter. And we write them back and say, no, you cannot tell us to not exercise our constitutional rights. You cannot bully us out of court. And if you attempt to, we will hold you accountable. And none of my clients got cited. 200 letters later, none of my clients got cited during that entire time for filing a lawsuit they had every right to file. Mm-hmm. So I'm not afraid to push back. I'm not afraid to take LAHD to task or any government organization to task when they're overreaching.
Excellent. In terms of growth, you've obviously got an exceptional team there, a fairly large team too. What stage of growth would you say the firm is in right now? And what's your target for the next 12 months or so?
We're in expansion. So we have our fundamental nucleus, which is our LA office. About 6 months ago, we opened our first satellite office, which is in San Diego, in North County, Carlsbad. And right now we're looking at acquiring other offices throughout California. So we're expanding into other geographical markets, which was really always the plan, while continuing to grow the base office as well.
Excellent. If you could wave a hypothetical magic wand and fix any challenge or limiting constraint in the business right now to that expansion or to your growth, what would that be?
I think probably the same answer everyone else tells you, which is permit non-lawyers to invest in law firms.
Huh. Interesting. That's actually not the answer I always get, but that's a good one. How pervasive is that? Obviously, tremendously based on the
yeah. Gotcha. So it's all pervasive. At least in California, you're not allowed to do it. So that means you cannot get private money, private equity. I mean, to a degree, I guess it's good because it eliminates all of those people as competition in a way. But then if I wanted to do like a big roll up and take out one of my competitors and use some private investment to do that, I really can't. And getting a loan for that kind of money would be prohibitive.
Right.
So it's very, you have to do things really the old way, which is fine, but it's slow.
So yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that. Where I like to always wrap up, because that's some great information, some things I had not heard before today, so I really appreciate it. But I always like to end on a personal, right? Because we talk about law, we talk about AI, we talk about business. What would you say is your personal motivation for what you do every day, aside from just the success of your firm?
So obviously there's, I think the most primal need of taking care of my family and wanting to provide a good life for them, a good future for them, and keep them comfortable. So that's, I think, everybody's fundamental, guiding light. But more than that, and this wasn't the case in the beginning, but every single day it becomes more so, is just like there are tenant advocates, I now view myself as a landlord advocate. I think the notion of respecting people's property rights is eroding to an extremely dangerous level, especially in places like California, and then all the more so in the city and the county of Los Angeles. And the comfort with which people espouse socialist and communist views as if they are positive things to talk about and brag about is extremely alarming. And I view the work we do as pushing back against that very dangerous tide.
Right. Yeah. That's, that based on everything you said, that's much needed. So
yeah, it really is. We have
it's,
4 people on our city council who call themselves the Democratic Socialists of America. And the Democratic part is nonsense. They just throw that in. So there's 3 letters in their name. They're just rabid socialists. They're talking about taking people's property and handing it over to tenants. That's literally what happened to my family, who's from communist Russia. They're from a former Soviet republic. My parents and my grandparents grew up under those regimes. And so my family has personal experience, but talk to anybody who grew up in China, Vietnam, Cuba, USSR, anywhere in Eastern Europe. Nobody runs out of one of those countries and says, yeah, it was pretty good.
That's what I was just going to say. I was specifically thinking Cuba, but yeah, it's so many examples. They
people
couldn't get up fast enough, right? So
people are, risking their lives to run away from these regimes, and we have homegrown morons trying to recreate them here in the place that spent how many hundreds of thousands of lives and how many trillions of dollars fighting it over there. And now we're letting this disease fester here. It's insane. And so I view the work as we're doing as pushing back against that, saying, no, you're not going to do that here.
Yes. Fantastic. Niv, for people that are interested in getting a consultation, learning more about your services, what's the best way to contact you?
So our website has all of our information. It is www.davidovichtlaw.com. I will spell that. It's DAVID, like the whole name David, OV as in Victor, ICHLAW.com. That has phone number, our emails, and you can contact me or any of our attorneys through the website, email, phone call. We also have a place to sign on to our newsletter. We send out information all the time as it comes through. And happy to talk to any of your clients or other people who are referral sources. Happy to help any landlords or property managers that need assistance.
Fantastic. I'll make sure to put your contact info in the description as well.
Great.
Great stuff today. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.